Hi there, and welcome to the next in my series of interviews with my personal Zill heroes. These women and men have done incredible things with the finger symbols, and what they have done has inspired me to go out and become the Zill enthusiast that I am today. And my hope is that with sharing with you some of their story, you might be similarly inspired to pick up your Zills and rock out. This next woman is going to blow your mind. Her name is Z Helene, and she is in Austin, Texas, and she is one of my original Zill inspirations. She has been dancing and zilling since the 70s and has taken the art of the finger symbol to a completely new level. So, in this conversation that we have together today, you get to learn a bit about her background in both dance and in rhythm, and how she approaches the Zills in a way that really leads to a sense of personal freedom and not being tied down to any rules per se that you need to follow when you put on these magical instruments. And hopefully, you will see through what she says and through the video clip that I've included at the end of the interview what an incredible method of self expression the finger symbols can be. So, wait no further and let's see Z Helene.
All
So
right.
I want to thank you so much for being here and for having this conversation with me today. You have been a gigantic influence in my Zill playing over the last 20 years. You're always my go-to when I want to show people examples of like some really awesome Zill playing. I always send them one of your videos
Thank
just to
you.
show them the possibilities, right? And so I want to talk to you today about kind of how you got to where you are, how you created the Zill style that you have, which I feel is so unique and so different from many other
Mhm.
belly dancers. So I kind of want to start there, like, because obviously you are a dancer, a longtime dancer and Zill player. How were you introduced specifically to the finger symbols, and like how did that relate to your dancing?
Okay. 19 January 1977, I took my first belly dance class with Nabila in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, in her downstairs of her house studio with my friend Kathy. And she introduced me to she was a Lebanese American woman, and she introduced me to the finger symbols. And immediately I knew I really loved them. Unlike the veil, which took me a couple of years to get used to that, I didn't take to the veil right away, but the finger symbols I took to right away. And because I knew I was a rhythm kind of person. My mom had tried with violin lessons, piano lessons, clarinet lessons, and I found reading music, I just didn't like it, right? And I just didn't. I rather feel it. And when I heard bands, I would always watch the drummer and kind of do it, and I would do fun. I would wait for I Spy to go on my on TV every week. I was like at 10 or 11, and in their song, they always had this like rhythmic thing. It was a spy show, yeah, and they would always have this rhythmic music where there would be these like bullets shooting at one point, and that was the highlight of my week. I would wait for the bullets, and I'd go pa 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 pa, I loved it. So
That's awesome.
it took me a while to figure out I'm a rhythm person, right? And I appreciate melody and lyrical stuff as well, but I guess my basic nature is more rhythmic. And obviously with my husband, we would do drum and zills. I mean, that it was sort of like we were the rhythm couple. So anyway, 1977, Nabila taught me finger symbols, and she goes, "You have to play right, left, right, right, left, right, right, left, right, right, left." And I'm like, "But I'm left-handed." She goes, "You still have to play right, left, right, right, left, right." So I would go to the little music room at the college. I was a senior, Franklin and Marshall College, and I would go down there, and people were playing piano in their little music rooms and everything, and I would play my finger symbols, and I would struggle. I mean, it was literally like I wanted to do left, right, left, left, right, left, but I'm like, she said do right, left, right. And I struggled with that right, left, right, right, left, right. And I did that for like a few months until I graduated. And then after I graduated, I went to LA and studied with Marie Silva at her Habu studio on Hollywood Boulevard. That's where I got my belly dance chops. Nabila was good, but she would teach like one step a week, like hip lift, that kind of thing. Where in California it was like no, 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 and there they were playing finger symbols, and when I took a class, they said, okay, so we're going to play right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, and I'm like, you mean I can alternate? Oh, thank you! Like I was just like so grateful. All of a sudden it just exploded for me because I didn't because there I was trying to learn the Zills on my non-dominant hand, so it was frustrating. But it also let me know that I could do my non-dominant hand, and maybe being introduced to it that way, I wasn't afraid of the non-dominant hand at all. So it really, that influenced me, that I thought, well, I could play my dominant hand. I could play left, right. I'm like, I'm left-handed. They go, well, if you want, you can lead with your left hand. And I'm like, really? You're giving me permission? I don't know why I felt like I needed their permission, but I didn't, they were the experts, I didn't know what I was doing. So I started just playing the zills the way they taught them, which was, I think, in retrospect, this was in LA. It was kind of like a somewhat influenced by the Jamila style, I would say, her early tribal style of finger cymbals, because there were some good finger cymbal players. They were really, solid finger cymbal players, that teachers who I studied with at that studio. So then I moved to Pennsylvania in like a farm, and I wanted to keep my belly dancing going. So I started really experimenting around with the finger cymbals more. And I started just playing them and having fun with them. And I've always been about personal liberation and freedom. So anytime somebody teaches me a rule, I like, well, how can I take this apart and make it my own? Like, what can I extract from it? Now, some people would say that was exploiting a technique. I'm like, no, I'm learning the technique, but I'm also want to know, how can I create something new out of this? That's always been a thrill of mine, like not following the standard whatever. It's just not my nature. My nature is to forge ahead and to create new. That's what turns me on. That literally turns me on. The other thing just seems like it's a little boring to me. I mean, once you learn it, it can be exciting, but then once it's done, it's like, well, where can I go with this? I always want to go further. So that's how I got introduced to finger cymbals. And then I moved to Austin at very beginning, February of 1980, and I saw a belly dance troupe here, all drummer women, and all playing. They were drumming, playing finger cymbals, and I'm like, I love this town. I was just visiting, didn't know where I broke up with my boyfriend, and my friend Kathy and I broke up with our boyfriends, and we were visiting, and we really liked Austin because of that artistic freedom here. I delved heavily into all kinds of dance forms: modern, East Indian, Bharatanatyam and Kathak, flamenco, African dance. And so my friend, she was an important influence, although I don't know where, we haven't spoken in years. She disappeared and joined a Sufi cult somewhere, and I never heard from her again. So, which doesn't surprise me, kind of. But we would study all these different dance forms, and we'd collaborate, and we came up with a style that we called blue wave dance. And sometimes I would say blue wave belly dance because it was heavily belly dancing, but I took tons of modern dance classes and private Indian, classical Indian, so I did a lot of delving, and I was one of those people that discovered dance and went head first into it. So I kind of came at it I learned the finger cymbals as a dancer in, I would say, mainly California, okay? Solid finger cymbals, 3-3-7, 3-5-5, blah, 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 singles, some basic sound changes, the whole thing. But I came at it from a dancer point of view, and also from I'm going to mess around with a rhythm point of view from what I've learned. And I also learned rhythmic concepts from East Indian dance, where you would, do a three count step, and then I started like, what if I put a 2 on top of that? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and then just go 1, 2, 1, 2. Like, I started realizing how much of the multi-layering of rhythms there was in Indian dance. And then flamenco, well, that just shot it out of the park with syncopation. Because in flamenco, a lot of the downbeat is done by the guitar, and the dancer kind of will hit it sometimes, but the dancer, it goes in and out of the rhythm on those 6s and 12s, and and that whole totally syncopated, like totally, like over a 4/4, it's like, it doesn't always fit exactly, like it doesn't resolve itself after a measure. You have to just keep playing it, and you have to like swim on top of the rhythm with this funky syncopation. So I had studied that for a while, and I was really enjoying how they interpreted rhythm and how they would pause like some of the most breathtaking performances I've ever seen, where when a flamenco dancer would burst into a flurry and then stop and then burst again and then stop. And then it was those pauses that they took that made me think, well, that's what made that so exciting. If all they did was burst around, that's one thing, but they're taking these pregnant pauses, and they're not just coming in randomly. They're coming in with the guitarist, with the, they're coming in with their own sort of syncopation with them. And I was, once again, another whole vista. So the tap dancing, the Indian dancing, the belly dancing to start, and the flamenco were the main rhythmic influences on my Zill playing.
That's amazing. Like, it all makes sense. Like, I've been watching some of these videos you've put out recently that are old videos of yours back from
Yes.
the 80s and 90s. And I can see all of that now that you've kind of gone through and enumerated your history. Like, it's so obvious how all of those different ethnic rhythmic influences and different ethnic dances have all styled into what you do. Your technique is unlike anyone's that I've ever seen before, which is what drew me to it initially. So now if someone's watching this video and they haven't had the blessing of watching you perform and hearing you zill, could you explain sort of how you've integrated this into your zilling, and what is it that makes your zill style unique?
Well, I have a degree in theater arts, so I've always had a love of the drama. And so I guess how I've integrated it is I come from I really love working on specific syncopations, things that are really hard, things that I actually have to count, like a 3 over a 4, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4, that kind of thing. And finding movements that things that are not always rounded. Belly dancers tend to stay either directly with what the music is doing, because a lot of people love to just be the music. And I understand that. I'm like, already have the music. What can I add to that music? How can I put my own layer on it? Which is not cool in some circles of thinking. You're supposed to just be the music, and like there's some people think that Zill should really just be an accompaniment. And if you're trying to take the limelight, you're dishonoring it. So I'm like, I'm a blue wave dancer. I'm going to come back to blue wave. So how I approach it is from a dramatic and emotional point of view. When I perform, I might speak or sing or hum or yell or scream while I play my zills, or do what I used to do at our gig. We had a gig, longest gig I ever had, 10 years, Kick Butt Coffee. I would have a little homily, like I would have a theme of it was a monthly show, and I would say, well, I want to talk about, generosity or something. And I might jot down a few ideas I had, but when I would go to do my Zill improvisation, I would use all my skills that I had practiced, because I like to practice those syncopations. But to me, it's not your technique should serve a higher purpose. Technique for its own sake is a little show-offy, and it's just like, so who cares? It's sort of, oh wow, she's really fast. All right, or that's kind of, or to me, it's like, why do all this technique if all you're going to do is regurgitate the technique? So the technique would serve me. So I wouldn't even know what I would do exactly. I might say, something on the theme like, open your hearts, and I would go on the feeling and let my technique kind of spill out as it needed to. Some were better than others, some were like so right on, and others were like, well, I kind of fished around for something for a while. But that's the nature of improvisation. And I also, not to confuse the hell out of you, I also come from a comedy improvisation background. I did that for years here, and I did it in LA, I did it in Austin. I was always, so the act of improvising is something I'm not afraid of, and I totally embrace. Like going out and you're like, okay, I know I have my theme, my theme is death, all right. And then just all those comedy improv techniques would come in. I might just drop to the ground, die for everyone, and then start playing the finger cymbals. So I've been known for a little bit of that far out stuff. Not that I can't do a nice, concise little 3-minute thing, and I have a few of those on the internet, like at Third Coast. I remember there was a 3-minute thing I did on there that,
Oh, is that the one where your Zills had a fight and then made
yes,
up?
yes, yes,
That was
and
divine. That was
and
one
I
of my
thought about that.
favorites.
Thank you. I thought about that, like, not a whole lot, because my husband and I used to do a fight. One of my most seen videos is a video in 1998, I think it is, at one of Bahia's hot shows,
Mm-hmm.
where I think was it Morocco? Morocco, I think, was the star of that show, and we do this fight on like, we do a normal drum and figure symbol thing, and then we do this little interlude between us where we kind of show off for each other on our solos, like we were sort of a competition, husband and wife competition, and then we do this little fight. And he did something he had never done before. He started like spanking his drum and doing the booing sounds, and I was like, I felt like Lucy Ball, you know, and that has been the most memorable performance. If there was one performance that I've done that most people remember, it's that performance.
I love it.
Because it was the interaction. But to get back to what you were saying, and then I was doing a solo. I'm like, well, people would ask me, can you do the fight? Can you do the fight? Well, I couldn't do the fight with my husband. So I'm like, well, I'll have to do the fight with myself, my Zills.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, well, I'll do this I do this little inside, and then I do the outside. But half of it, some of it is the feeling you put into it. I mean, if you're just trying to be, pretty doing it, it's not going to work. You have to kind of get gutsy with it and actually do it. And so I got into it in the moment there, and that was memorable too. So,
Oh, I
like,
loved that performance. Yeah, because it's the theater. Like, I didn't realize you had a theatrical background, but it makes so much sense because it's almost like you have one actor, two actors, three actors in
mm-hmm.
your composition, and you can tell an entire story with your finger symbols. And I think you're the first person I ever saw do that, and I was just love
Wow,
it.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
I have a lot of respect for your finger symbol. Put that fifth Zill on and do the 10 stages. I'm like, all right, that's her thing, because I'm not even gonna go there. She's
You
so
inspire me to push myself. I'm like,
good.
what crazy thing can I do next?
If I inspire people to go beyond their limiting beliefs, then I've done what yoga would call dharma. So partly when I teach, as you know, because you've taken some classes, I do drilling, just drills with metronomes, because as great as I think my rhythm is, it will get off. My beat will get off, and if you don't have a song anchoring you and a click track, it's so easy. Now, if you're doing the Zill solo where it's a blank canvas, you can change time signatures, and you can go back and forth, whatever. But if you're trying, but I find it's really good to keep training myself to know to cut that beat, to be able to cut that beat with a knife, and to have it be a beautiful cut. And if it starts to get off, how to micro adjust. So we do the threes, we do them on one hand, and we do them on the non-dominant hand, and then we do it, and I do it with the metronome, because I will get, it will get off if the metronome doesn't lie, usually, especially with those wind-up ones they'd start to slow down. But the ones now are on the phone and stuff. They're pretty accurate. So I love doing those kind of drills. But then the other part of it is, what do you want to express? Now that you have this big bag of techniques that you can use, what do you want to say with them? What do you as an individual have to say to me, an audience member, that's going to open me up and make me think in a different way? Like when you put the fifth Zill on, it's sort of like what I want to be taken on a journey with somebody. And sometimes I am, with their sheer beauty, I have to say, in their sheer fabulous technique. I mean, I've seen dancers do just exquisite movement, just exquisitely chiseled movement, And then, and I can really appreciate that. But if it doesn't have that emotional component, then if it doesn't move me in a deep way, it's just, it doesn't stick. And I just literally roamed around my house playing my finger cymbals, and I came up with some really cool new drills to do and techniques. I'm doing paradills now, and I love it. And I don't think about anything like the politics of the time or the unrest of the time. That all leaves my brain completely when I'm engrossed in doing the Zills. So
it's like a meditation in a way.
It is a meditation.
I want to go back to what you're saying about Zills being empowering and it being something that you can really play with. I find that I've been interviewing dancers recently, just sort of privately, who either never learned to Zill or learned to Zill and then let it go, to find out why, right? Because obviously I love them. Obviously you love them. We're preaching to the choir here. But for people who have taken a taste and been like, oh yeah, not for me, why is that? And I think a lot of times it's either a poor first introduction. They were introduced to it by someone who maybe wasn't really comfortable with the skill themselves, and so it wasn't translated well, or they were scared to do it wrong because they felt for whatever reason that, how do I know which rhythm to play, which one is okay to play, and when I should play it? Can you address that? Because I think that the way you approach it with such freedom and expressiveness, you take it from a totally different angle. And I think that that could empower people who've maybe put them away to pick them back up and work with them differently than they have before.
Yes, I would recommend to them that they do a few standard drills, that they to get into it. Maybe just threes, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And if they want to do dominant hand, that's fine. But you know me, I like to do non-dominant, dominant, and then alternate. I like to do it all. Because when you're improvising, you may be on the other hand when you want to do something, and you want that hand to work. You don't want it to always have to be your dominant. So I would say get into, maybe put a song on that's moderately paced, not too much. And I always recommend to my students, just sit down and play them. You don't have to even dance with it. Just play every other beat. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then maybe do 3 in a row. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Pause. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Pause. Like put it in little neat little chunks for them, and then have them and just say and the drills will change as you get better. You might get new ones, but a few things that you repeat constantly, and then once you get comfortable with that, then I would say, okay, now that you've done your drilling, now how you feel today? It's like, I'm sad. Well, dance sad. How does that make your finger cymbals want to play when you're sad? How does that accent your emotion? I would encourage them to not think of the Zills as a robotic thing, but as a personal expression thing. And that might get some of them. Some people might be terrified of that because they're afraid of improvisation, or they need to be told exactly what they want to do. And if a dancer wants to be told exactly what to do, then she could go to me or another teacher. There are other teachers who have a very precise method, and you're going to play this here, and you're going to play that there, and then you never play during this part. And there's people that really want those rules, then they need to find that teacher that works for them. I always say I'm the teacher for the brave dancers. I don't have any, and if they're not brave and they want to be brave, they should come to me, because I will encourage them all the way not to think they're doing anything wrong.
Gotcha.
So got to find the right teacher. You may want one that's more precise, or it more has written out things. I tend to sing my melodies and talk them out. I can write stuff out for people, but I tend to go, da 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 da. I feel like that gets into me. That's my method that gets into me the best.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. No, that's good to know. I'm glad that you mentioned that there's so many different routes that you can take, right? And you can be sort of a more of a precision ziller with music done in this particular way,
Yes.
or you could go kind of a more freestyle, which is what I loved when I started learning from you. The first, I think, acapella Zill class I took with you at Third Coast Tribal all those years ago, just to like express your emotions with your zills. And I was like, excuse me? Like, what are you
Yeah.
talking about? Right? Like, and that was just, I think, an idea that had never even been suggested to me before. Like, my brain didn't even conceptualize how, like, but they're in a musical instrument, right? And I'm a musician. I've played the flute for over 30 years, and obviously, a melodic line
Yeah.
can portray an emotion, and there's no reason why these can't as well. And I think that was just like this light bulb moment where I was like, oh, this is going to be really fun. It's going to be a stretch. And at times, am I going to feel vulnerable? Yes. At times, am I going to be kind of uncomfortable with the process? Yeah, because it's emotional, right? So it's so much more than just technique. But I think that's what gives it that sparkle, and the thing that really draws me to it and makes it seem like more than just some rhythms to memorize and place on top of music.
Exactly. Exactly. Especially if you're doing solos or a cappella solos, because there is nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
It's you and you.
Yep, you get to make all the rules and break them all at the same time.
You don't have any music to follow. You're not having to be part of an ensemble, or you're not telling a story like in ballet, or you're not required to do anything. It's just you, and it's not you and who all your great teachers are. I mean, they're not you who performed for the King of Siam. It's you, and there's no buffer there. And it's your feeling, it's your emotion, it's what you put into it. You are the art. You are the canvas. You are creating a sound visual canvas for people. I like to take people on a little bit of an emotional journey, a storyline journey, or just some kind of from just a trip. Take them on a little trip. You got 2-3 minutes. What do you want to say? So if you're performing Zills with music, with a band, yes, you definitely are bound to a certain extent by the structure of the song. And that's important to know those structures. But even within that, if you practice some really cool syncopations, you can throw in syncopations that will fly on top and still be with the band. You know what I mean? You won't be dishonoring the music that's going on. You really will be adding another voice that has some interesting new ideas in there. And you know what? I've had some great, wonderful misses.
We all have.
I danced at my father's retirement party for 250 insurance people, metropolitan insurance people. And I was doing a performance. I was working on a show. I thought, I'm just going to do my show. Well, they did not get it. What I should have done was a 5-minute little hi, how are you, and sat on their dad's lap or somebody, and done some thick belly dance thing. They did not get me. So I've had some spectacular misses. Also had some spectacular hits. So, it is, there is that little element of the gamble, but I do love that thrill of the unknown.
Yeah.
That gamble.
Well, that's part of the artistic process in general. Like, I don't know if I guess you could play it safe all the time and find ways to grow, but I think that's when the biggest growth spurts come, is when you're willing to put yourself out there and know it's not always going to be awesome, and that's okay, right? Like, that's how you learn and integrate new ideas and grow and develop a little bit of a thick skin, which is good too, and so
It's good. And I'll tell you what's great about it. It's not like you're taking risks skydiving or something.
or doing
You're not
brain
gonna
surgery, right? Like, no one is going to die. It's
Yes,
going
and
to
you're
be
not
okay.
doing brain surgery on anyone. Going, let me see if I put these two veins together.
What happens here?
No, it's something that you will survive. And I don't like to fail. Like, I love doing these yoga videos, and when I only got like 4 people, I mean, I got some people interested. I thought, well, this is not a big hit, and then I thought, but I got the benefit of it. So, I mean, if the process is important to you,
Well, yeah,
uh,
and I think the process has to be important. Like if it's all just about the arrival and never about the journey, like life's kind of rough because life is mostly the journey, right? There's
absolutely.
arrivals here and there, but most of it is the process. This is great stuff. What I'd love to do is do a little lightning round, a few fast questions that have
All
fast
right.
answers, and then I'm going to ask you what you're up to with Zills and how people can find you.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Okay. So first question: how many pairs of Zills do you own?
Um, Probably about 6,
Okay.
but I don't
And
play them.
what's your favorite pair?
My favorite pair used to be called Afghani Golds from
Mm-hmm.
Safari.
I've got those
But
right there.
now I don't know what I mean. They may still be the golds, but now I've noticed there are no golds. I think so. I think they're bronze.
They're bronze. Mm-hmm.
Yes,
No,
and
they're brass. They're brass. The bronze ones are the copper colored, and the brass ones are the gold colored.
what is this? What is this
Yeah,
one?
that's the brass.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I tend to like those, and then I have their concert masters, which are this one here.
Mm-hmm.
This is their most
Yes.
expensive one. I thought, oh, I'm gonna get and it's heavy.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't find I don't know. I don't like the rings on them so much. You know,
Ah, okay. Mm-hmm.
but when I want to practice with a heavy pair of Zills and they're loud, like if I'm in an area where I feel like I might not be heard as well, I'll put those on. They're heavier, so I'm not as I feel like they don't give me the same freedom with dancing because they can move around. Like if I hit them the wrong way, they'll turn and they'll stay that way, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I do like those. So those are my 2 favorites.
Those are your weightlifting Zills, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Okay, we already covered this, but I'm going to mention it because it's all part of my lightning round for all my Zillers.
Mhm.
So, left hand dominant or continuously alternating? How do you tend to play
Um,
most?
I would say both.
Excellent. I like that
Both.
answer. And totally random. What is your favorite quarantine activity?
Um, Walking, taking walks with my husband, who I have not spent this much time with since before we were married, which was like 34 years ago. Literally, I've not spent this much time, and we go and explore. There's a couple parks around the neighborhoods, and it's been my go-to physical activity is going on walks with him. That's my
I love it. So, what are your next Zill projects, and where can people find you if they want to study with you?
okay. Well, best to just email me or
Mhm.
contact me on Facebook. On Facebook, I'm under Z Helene. I have 2 sites. I have my professional Z Helene site, and then I have my Helene Christopher, which is the one that I have the most friends on that one. My email zhelene@grandecom.net. Maybe
And I'll put those all in the links in the video. Yeah.
that's a personal email. Also, I have zhelene.com is my website. You can see a whole description of the different videos I have. I have performance videos, but my main ones are the Zill one. This is from 1999, and this is a 4-part one. Z Helene. This is sort of a basic beginning belly dance that has fast and slow moves, beginning Zills, and a drum and Zill choreography. I've been teaching for Austin Community College since 1988. And I have a Middle Eastern dance. We have to call it Middle Eastern dance. We can't call it belly dance or rock sharky or anything. It has to be something that most people can get, or Oriental dance or anything like that. Middle Eastern dance. It could be taken for credit or or continuing education. And this is what I just found out. Anyone can sign up for the continuing education at the super reduced price. It's like super cheap. That registration will end on September 16th or something like that. So I did a series of tutorials, level 1, level 2, and just recently I just went to just straight Zoom classes, and I have these tutorials that I will probably do maybe once a year, because what it is you get 5 videos, and you get a Zoom call each week. So it's a really good deal. You get a video and a Zoom call. And so now I'm just doing the Zoom classes, and I'm going to be doing the first 3 weeks in November and the first 3 weeks in December. So I'm doing a 6 class Zoom series coming up. I haven't advertised it or anything, but I'm going to be doing that.
Great. I'll link your Facebook so people can go. If you have not had the chance to study with this woman, you have to do it. It's such a fun look at like the massive potential that these instruments have that are so much beyond the rhythm, so much more beyond just like learning rote rhythms, and the expressiveness I think is what I learned most. And then
Yes.
just drilling up to speeds you never thought imaginable. That was the other.
Anyway,
Great. That sounds amazing. Well,
yeah.
thank you so much for sharing all this great information and inspiration and resource. And so hopefully we will inspire a new series of dancers, or even people not into dance, to get into rhythm and zills and personal expression
I
that
want
way.
people to love it. You know, especially those dancers that you were talking about who were turned off to Zills. You know, it's like I said, have them. I'd say do some easy drills and then just put them on and start to play like play instead of practice. Like
Yeah, just have
play with
fun.
them. Like
Hmm.
like here's a pillow. Like play with the pillow. You know, it's like when you're a kid, when you watch a baby, they play with things. So play with the Zills, enjoy them. Don't worry about being perfect.
Right.
Remember, you know, don't make the perfect the enemy of the good. It's an old Greek, my heritage, old Greek adage. Uh, don't let the perfect be the enemy of good, and
Wise words. Hmm.
enjoy. And thank you. Can I just say thank you for doing this series?
My pleasure. It's my pleasure. This is really just a selfish way for me to get to hang out with you more. So, and if I
I
can share it
know.
with the world at large, then that's a bonus as well.
Well, no one else is doing a Zills Heroes thing, and no one else has wanted to hear me go into depth about my love for finger symbols. My last thing is I want it to be a temple of Zills or the Church of Sagat.
Oh, I love it. The
It's
Church
like
of Sagat.
where we worship with our finger symbols.
Yes. I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed that interview with the amazing Z Helene. And now that you've had a taste of just how amazing she is and how she arrived at the incredible Zill process that she uses these days, I hope that you will reach out and connect with her and perhaps take some classes with her. The links for her upcoming classes and ways to get in touch with her so that you can register can be found in the notes for this video. So I hope that you will take advantage of this incredible resource that we have here in the belly dance community and check her out sometime soon. Thank you so much for joining me for this conversation, and I'll talk to you soon.